Hello again, it's Miss Jones from Sew with Miss Jones. The next step is to put the pocket on. And remember on the pattern, they have it down at the bottom and they have it at the top. You actually can kind of put it wherever you want. But to follow the pattern, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to use, and you could use a ruler or a seam guide to do this. This is my fold line. So this is where my side is now. And I'm going to measure over, and it looks like it's about 1 3/4 inches from the side. 1 3/4 inches from the side. So I'm actually going to write that down. So I'm going to measure down from the top of the pocket to where I folded up my hem, and that is 10 inches. So I know my pocket needs to be 10 inches up from the bottom. Okay, so I'm up 10 inches, and it's in 1 3/4 inches. So I am going to use my tape measure, and I'm going to measure up 10 inches. And remember, my 10 inches is right at my hem. And I'm actually going to take a pin and just put a pin right here. Just so I know where the top of my pocket's supposed to be. And then I'm going to set this at 1 3/4, so that's halfway between 1 1/2 and 2 inches. So I'm putting my slider there. And I'm just kind of putting that right there. And what I can do then is, so your top stitching is up. You don't want to have the back side up. The top stitching is up. And I am going to lay my pocket so that the top of it is 10 inches from the bottom, and the sides of it should be 1 3/4 inches. And this side should be parallel as much as possible. It should be parallel. So parallel. Okay, and whenever I pin pockets on, I always just stick one in the middle to kind of hold it in place, sometimes two. And then I do my checking before I start pinning it all the way around. So I'm going to check again to see if I'm right at 10 inches, and pretty dang close. Actually, this corner is up a little high, so I'm going to pull this down on this side. I'll stick a pin there. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit and measure again. You don't always get things right the very first time, and that's okay. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still don't always get things right the first time. So I'm going to put a couple of pins in here to just hold it in place so it doesn't wiggle around. And then I am going to sew starting at the upper left corner, come down, do the corner around the bottom and up the side. So that means, because I'm sewing this way, I'm going to put my pins so that they follow that direction. You know, I always want to make sure that the head is closest to where my hand's going to be, and then the point will be away from the direction that I'm going. And when you pin this on, you don't need to have a ton, because if you put too many in, it might make your pocket bubbly and it'll be a little more difficult for you to get it to lay flat. So what, I put 2 on the sides and 2 on the bottom. No, I am going to put 2 on the bottom. And 1 on each corner. I'm going to flip this around because it's going to be easier for me to put the pins in this way. Now, when we when we sew this on, we're going to use the same slip stitch that we did before. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start right here. And I'm actually going to make a couple of stitches in place right there. I want it to really stay tight. And you got to start right at the top edge of the pocket. I am not stitching across here. I'm not stitching across there. And if you want to remind yourself not to do that, you could put a couple of pins making an X up here, just so you remember not to stitch on that side. I've had students before when we were sewing with the machine, they get down, sit down, and they sew all the way around the whole thing, and then they can't put their hands in. So our hands are going to go in here. Anyway, I'm going to start right here, right at this corner. I'm going to put a couple of extra stitches. I want these stitches to be small, kind of like I did on the diagonal. These are really close together, almost like 1/8 of an inch, because this is going to have more stress to it than any of the other parts. This doesn't have a lot of stress. The top edge doesn't have a lot of stress. This one does, because the straps are going to go through there and they're going to get wiggled around a little bit. And if you're going to put anything in this pocket, you got to make sure that it's going to stay on. If your stitches are too big, it will fall off pretty soon. So you don't need to see me sew this on. You've seen me do slip stitching before. I am going to go ahead and sew this on, and when I come back, the last thing we have to do is put the straps in. Bye for now.